19-year-old Jack Hoffman has been laid to rest in his hometown of Atkinson, Nebraska. Hoffman died on Wednesday after battling brain cancer for 14 years, but his legacy means so much more. First Alert 6's Philip Katafimo shares more of Jack's story and his impact on cancer research.
Friends and family gathered to remember the life of Jack Hoffman.
He is survived by his mother, Brianne, his sisters, Ava and Reese, his grandparents, numerous aunts, uncles, cousins, classmates, teachers, many friends, admirers, and those inspired by his long, courageous fight against pediatric cancer.
He was the face of the Team Jack Foundation, which has raised about $15 million to fight pediatric cancer. Jack was diagnosed with brain cancer when he was just 5 years old. Despite going through treatment for all his life, Jack continued to fight. His resiliency offered hope to those battling the same illness.
Jack enjoyed his boating, his hunting, his fishing, his traveling, getting to meet celebrities, and of course, the best thing for Jack was when he got to suit up and play football for our West Holt Huskies.
You may remember this iconic run from the 2013 Nebraska football spring game. A then 7-year-old Jack Hoffman sprinted into the end zone surrounded by his heroes. This run helped jumpstart the Team Jack Foundation, which started 2 years prior. The moment went viral, shining a spotlight on pediatric cancer, the #1 cause of death in children.
Building a foundation like Team Jack doesn't happen overnight. The amount of dedication, the amount of focus that the Hoffman family put into it, inspired by the bravery of Jack during his entire treatment, actually has given us all the changes that we have in Nebraska because of Team Jack.
Team Jack led to the creation of the University of Nebraska Medical Center Childhood Brain Tumor Program. Dr. Coulter says it's brought important clinical trials to the heartland and across the country. The National Research Institute, which funds cancer research, only funds about 4% of pediatric cancer studies, as pediatric cancer is not as common compared to lung or prostate.
When we have limited resources, a number of the research projects are going to go to the cancers that are more, that have higher numbers. So by changing the dynamic and putting a focus on pediatric cancer, they were able to raise money that allowed us to have resources to not only do research on pediatric brain tumors here in Nebraska and throughout the country, but also that allowed us to change sort of the way these patients are treated, to make a treatment team that can walk them through all of their therapies.
Jack's legacy will live on through Team Jack and its mission to end childhood cancer. In Omaha, I'm Philip Katafimo, First Alert 6.
What an impactful legacy. Now, to learn more about the Team Jack Foundation, head to our website, firstalert6.com.